Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is cmuns at pvcp.org. We're going to be looking at Book 2, Episode 3 this time. A couple topics that we're going to talk about is, first off, Archidamus and his first strike. And we're going to see Athens' reaction as a result. The second thing we're going to see is Athenian counterattack. We'll talk about the eclipse and the funeral oration, which you read in class today. So let's get started. So the first part of Epictetus's campaign is he's going to go up through this isthmus, and he's going to attack this city of Enea. I can't pronounce that. But anyways, on page 83 it mentions this. So the first attack is going to be, first encampment is on the city of Oeneon. And here we're going to get a criticism of Archidamus that he's too slow. Let's read here. The Peloponnesian army advanced and reached Attica first at Oni, the point intended for the launch of their invasion. Here they encamped and prepared to attack the wall with siege engines and by other means. Oni, lying on the border between Attica and Boeotia, was a fortified place used by the Athenians as a garrison frontier post in time of war. Preparations for the assault and other delays kept them at Oni for some time. This brought severe criticism on Archidamus. Why? Because he spent so long there. They expected more results. He was already too soft and overly friendly to the Athenians in the build-up to the war, and his reluctance to endorse its enthusiastic prosecution. There is some talk about how it's possible that he was friends with Pericles and didn't want to harm any of his Pericles' personal property, but Thucydides only mentions that. He doesn't come back to that again. Eventually, they break through, and from here, there's troops come along during ripe season of harvest down the city of Eleusis, and then they come back up toward Arcane, and they stay there for a while. They end up going really close to the city, but they said it's within 7 miles that they get. And the idea behind this, the strategy, is to draw the Athenians out of the city. For fear of lost property. The other part of this was pretty clever. On page 84, Archidamus has said, on the very bottom it says, the thought was that the loss of their own would make the Arcanians less keen to risk their lives for others' lands, giving rise to division of policy. So it's also clever that if he can destroy some property on the outlier and they're not able to be stopped, that's going to create division within the city of Athens. Those who see their property being destroyed and those who still have property are going to start a fight between them. So it's pretty clever. Meanwhile, they're just ravaging. Thucydides says this is the harvest is ripe, and they're able to just basically do a plundering of this land throughout the summer. The Athenians start off by thinking, well, maybe this isn't such a big deal. It says that the Athenians did in fact have some hope that they would not advance any closer. They remembered that Pleistoanax, the former Spartan king, when he invaded Attica, he got so far, but then he stopped. And because he stopped, people thought that he was a traitor, and this caused his exile. So they actually maybe thought, well, maybe this will happen to Archidamus as well. But that sort of reaction doesn't last long enough. They actually, the plan of Archidamus actually works. The young people start seeing the devastation on their land. It says here the younger men never had seen this before, yet the older men, only in Persian wars, they're the ones who saw. And so you have this sort of fight going on within. You have a fight within Athens. So let's write that down. The Athenian reaction. Initially, it was hopeful, but then it quickly turned to factions and strife about about when to attack. So Archidamus actually wins this, and they turn on Pericles. And Pericles is going to have to institute rule of law. So we said this is going to be his autocratic rule. It's not that he was it wasn't he elected to the office of such, but he was put in control of all the functioning. But this is what happens in a time of war. In time of peace, he's supposed to relinquish that power back to the people. So what's going to happen is you're going to have, during this time of war, Pericles is going to make some calls that are going to seem what we would call tyrannical, but it's really he's creating that name. So he basically says he bans all assemblies, banned assemblies. So basically, no one's allowed to talk about any other options. We are going to do what we're going to do, and you need to stop. The next thing he does is he sends out cavalry to just to do some small fighting. So let's talk now about the Athenian counterattack. There's going to be two envoys. There's going to be one envoy that goes around the Peloponnese, conquer some cities here and there along the coastline, just kind of bring the battle back to Sparta, attack them at their home. The other one is going to be another envoy, which is going to be in the north, which is to secure their land holdings, especially the land of Euboea, and also the land that is left from when the Spartans retreat. So the first envoy is going to be encircling the Peloponnese. They mention some cities that I'll highlight here. So there's there's two forces. They send out ships that come around, about 100 ships, and they come and attack Laconia, and they do some port cities and such, just to try to create some sort of disturbance. And then they move their campaign up, and they go and attack this city of Elis. Eventually, they turn around. There's a sort of heroic story of Brasidius on page 87, where the Spartan, one Spartan guy came in and he jumped through the thin lines of the Spartans who were climbing up the coastlines, and he was able to push back the Athenians. Well, anyways, the Athenians turned around and they went back home, and they ventured all the way back around, and they came and attacked Aegina and took this island again. So this is going to be an important place. They stripped Aegina of all its citizens, caused them to deport. The Spartans took them and helped them relocate. But now Athens is sort of relocating their power in Aegina. At the same time, when the Athenians were going into Laconia and Elis, Corcyra also sent people, ships, and they came around and they conquered Cephalonia, and helped secure some other cities. So these were 30 ships that came along with them, but the other one was 100 ships. And in the second envoy, the Athenian ships went north. They made a couple of diplomatic decisions. They ended up making alliances with kings of Macedon and Thrace. At the other junction, they went and secured land, Locris, Euboea, and Thronium. These cities are sort of located in this region here, and Euboea, as we mentioned. So they're basically securing this land here. They want to protect any northern advance. So after the successful campaign against the Aegeans and along with Laconia, something interesting happened, and it's funny because Thucydides mentions about an eclipse, that is the solar eclipse. And this is all he says on the bottom of page 87. See if you can figure out what is it that he's saying or not saying. It says, during the same summer, at the beginning of the lunar month, which seems to be the only time at which such a phenomenon can happen, there was an eclipse of the sun in the afternoon. The sun took on a crescent shape before returning full, and some stars could be seen. So what do we notice from this? Did you catch it? How would you contrast this with Herodotus, for instance, or Homer? What would they say about this? It's non-religious according to a non-religious phenomenon, according to Thucydides. In fact, he says, only at this time. What? The lunar calendar. Which is fascinating. I mean, he's using it's more of a rationalistic. Homer would say this is the gods saying something. This is Apollo mentioning something. So it really is an argument from silence, right? Silence. That's all he says about it. He doesn't connect it with probably what people were doing. The majority of people were connecting it to their religion, but he doesn't go that direction. So thought I'd mention that. All right, the next thing to happen is Athens creates an army campaign. Under Pericles, it is the largest land effort yet for Athens. This is after the Spartans already leave, and it's basically a raiding party. They want to reassert their power, and they do that on Megara. Basically devastate it, take some stuff, lay it waste, and then leave. That's the extent of it. The following, the story sort of ends there. Nothing too dramatic. But the next episode is going to be really where a lot of people pour their time into it. There's a bit of war with the Corinthians, and then on the bottom of page 89 we get the funeral oration. Oops. Now, a couple things. This is compared with Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. We also get a good glimpse of Greek funeral preparation. And this is to commemorate the dead who have fallen, the dead who fought. This is not the plague of Athens, not to be confused with that. So we'll talk about this in our next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment below. See you.